The Theory and Practice of Alchemy, Part 1. Alchemy, the secret art of the land of Khem, is one of the two oldest sciences known to the world. The other is astrology. The beginnings of both extend back into the obscurity of prehistoric times. According to the earliest records extant, alchemy and astrology were considered as divinely revealed to man, so that by their aid he might regain his lost estate. According to old legends preserved by the rabbis, the angel at the gate of Eden instructed Adam in the mysteries of Qabbalah and of alchemy, promising that when the human race had thoroughly mastered the secret wisdom concealed within these inspired arts, the curse of the forbidden fruit would be removed, and man might again enter into the garden of the Lord. As man took upon himself coats of skins, physical bodies, at the time of his fall, so these sacred sciences were brought by him into the lower worlds, incarnated in dense vehicles, through which their spiritual transcendental natures could no longer manifest themselves. Therefore, they were considered as being dead or lost. The earthly body of alchemy is chemistry, for chemists do not realize that half of the Book of Torah is forever concealed behind the veil of Isis, see the tarot, and that so long as they study only material elements, they can at best discover but half of the mystery. Astrology is crystallized into astronomy, whose votaries ridicule the dreams of ancient seers and sages, deriding their symbols as meaningless products of superstition. Nevertheless, the intelligentsia of the modern world can never pass behind the veil which divides the seen from the unseen, except in the way appointed, the mysteries. What is life? What is intelligence? What is force? These are the problems to the solutions of which the ancients consecrated their temples of learning. Who shall say that they did not answer those questions? Who would recognize the answers if given? Is it possible that under the symbols of alchemy and astrology lies concealed a wisdom so abstruse that the mind of this race is not qualified to conceive its principles? The Chaldeans, Phoenicians, and Babylonians were familiar with the principles of alchemy, as were many early Oriental races. It was practiced in Greece and Rome, was the master science of the Egyptians. Khem was an ancient name for the land of Egypt, and both the words alchemy and chemistry are a perpetual reminder of the priority of Egypt's scientific knowledge. According to the fragmentary writings of those early peoples, alchemy was to them no speculative art. They implicitly believed in the multiplication of metals, and in the face of their reiterations, both the scholar and the materialist should be more kindly in their consideration of alchemical theorems. Evolutionists trace the unfoldment of the arts and sciences up through the growing intelligence of the prehistoric man, while others, of a transcendental point of view, like to consider them as being direct revelations from God. Many interesting solutions to the riddle of alchemy's origin have been advanced. One is that alchemy was revealed to man by the mysterious Egyptian demigod, Hermes Trismegistus. This sublime figure, looming through the mists of time and bearing in his hand the immortal emerald, is credited by the Egyptians as being the author of all the arts and sciences. In honor of him, all scientific knowledge was gathered under the general title of the Hermetic Arts. When the body of Hermes was interred in the valley of Ebron, or Hebron, the divine emerald was buried with it. Many centuries afterward, the emerald was discovered, according to one version, by an Arabian initiate, according to another, by Alexander the Great, king of Macedon. By means of the power of this emerald, upon which were the mysterious inscriptions of the thrice great Hermes, 13 sentences in all, Alexander conquered all the then known world. Not having conquered himself, however, he ultimately failed. Regardless of his glory and power, the prophecies of the talking trees were fulfilled, and Alexander was cut down in the midst of his triumph. There are persistent rumors to the effect that Alexander was an initiate of high order who failed because of his inability to withstand the temptations of power. E. Y. Keneally, quoting from the Cosmodromium of Dr. Gobelin Persona, describes the incident of Alexander and the talking trees, and into the presence of which the king of Macedon is said to have been brought while on his campaign in India. And now Alexander marched into other quarters equally dangerous, at one time over the tops of mountains, at another through dark valleys, in which his army was attacked by serpents and wild beasts, until after 300 days he came into a most pleasant mountain, on whose sides hung chains or ropes of gold. This mountain had 2,050 steps, all of purest sapphire, by which one could ascend to the summit. And near this Alexander encamped. And on a day, Alexander with his 12 princes ascended by the aforenamed steps to the top of the mountain, and found there a palace marvelously beautiful, having 12 gates and 70 windows of the purest gold. And it was called the Palace of the Sun. And there was in it a temple of all gold, before whose gates were vine trees, bearing bunches of carbuncles and pearls. And Alexander and his princes, having entered the palace, found there a man lying on a golden bedstead. He was very stately and beautiful in appearance, and his head and beard were white as snow. Then Alexander and his princes bent the knee to the sage, who spake thus: Alexander, thou shalt now see what no earthly man hath ever before seen or heard. To whom Alexander made answer, O sage, most happy, how dost thou know me? He replied, Before the wave of the deluge covered the face of the earth, I knew thy works. He added, Wouldst thou behold the most hallowed trees of the sun and moon, which announce all future things? Alexander made answer, It is well, my lord, greatly do we long to see them. Then the sage said, Put away your rings and ornaments, and take off your shoes, and follow me. And Alexander did so, and choosing out 3 from the princes, and leaving the rest to await his return, he followed the sage, and came to the trees of the sun and moon. The tree of the sun has leaves of red gold. The tree of the moon has leaves of silver, and they are very great. And Alexander, at the suggestion of the sage, questioned the trees, asking if he should return in triumph to Macedon. To which the trees gave answer, No, that he should live yet another year and 8 months, after which he should die by a poisoned cup. And when he inquired who was he who should give him that poison, he received no reply. And the tree of the moon said to him, that his mother, after a most shameful and unhappy death, should lie long unburied, but that happiness was in store for his sisters. See the book of Enoch, the second messenger of God. In all probability, the so-called talking trees were merely strips of wood with tables of letters upon them, by means of which oracles were evoked. At one time, books written upon wood were called talking trees. The difficulty in deciding the origin of alchemy is directly due to ignoring the lost continent of Atlantis. The Great Arcanum was the most prized of the secrets of the Atlantean priestcraft. When the land of Atlas sank, hierophants of the fire mystery brought the formula to Egypt, where it remained for centuries in the possession of the sages and philosophers. It gradually moved into Europe, where its secrets are still preserved intact. Those disagreeing with the legend of Hermes and his emerald tablet see in the 200 angels who descended upon the mountains, as described by the prophet Enoch, the first instructors in the alchemical art. Regardless of its originator, it was left to the Egyptian priests to preserve alchemy for the modern world. Egypt, because of the color of its earth, was called the Black Empire, and is referred to in the Old Testament as the Land of Darkness. By reason of its possible origin there, alchemy has long been known as the black art, not in the sense of evil, but in the sense of that darkness which has always enshrouded its secret processes. During the Middle Ages, alchemy was not only a philosophy and a science, but also a religion. Those who rebelled against the religious limitations of their day concealed their philosophic teachings under the allegory of gold-making. In this way, they preserved their personal liberty and were ridiculed rather than persecuted. Alchemy is a threefold art. Its mystery well symbolized by a triangle. Its symbol is 3 times 3, 3 elements or processes, and 3 worlds or spheres. The 3 times 3 is part of the mystery of the 33rd degree of Freemasonry, For 33 is 3 times 3, which is 9, the number of esoteric man, and the number of emanations from the root of the divine tree. It is the number of worlds nourished by the 4 rivers that pour out of the divine mouth as the verbum fiat. Beneath the so-called symbolism of alchemy is concealed a magnificent concept, for this ridiculed and despised craft still preserves intact the triple key to the gates of eternal life. Realizing, therefore, that alchemy is a mystery in 3 worlds, the divine, the human, and the elemental, it can easily be appreciated why the sages and philosophers created and evolved an intricate allegory to conceal their wisdom. Alchemy is the science of multiplication and is based upon the natural phenomenon of growth. Nothing from nothing comes is an extremely ancient adage. Alchemy is not the process of making something from nothing. It is the process of increasing and improving that which already exists. If a philosopher were to state that a living man could be made from a stone, the unenlightened would probably exclaim, "Impossible." Thus would they reveal their ignorance. For to the wise, it is known that in every stone is the seed of man. A philosopher might declare that a universe could be made out of a man, but the foolish would regard this as an impossibility, not realizing that a man is a seed from which a universe may be brought forth. God is the within and the without of all things. The Supreme One manifests himself through growth, which is an urge from within outward, a struggle for expression and manifestation. There is no greater miracle in the growing and multiplication of gold by the alchemist than in a tiny mustard seed producing a bush many thousands of times the size of the seed. If a mustard seed produces 100,000 times its own size and weight when planted in an entirely different substance, the earth, why should not the seed of gold be multiplied 100,000 times by art when that seed is planted in its earth, the base metals, and nourished artificially by the secret process of alchemy? Alchemy teaches that God is in everything, that he is one universal spirit, manifesting through an infinity of forms. God, therefore, is the spiritual seed planted in the dark earth, the material universe. By art, it is possible so to grow and expand this seed that the entire universe of substance is tinctured thereby and becomes like unto the seed, pure gold. In the spiritual nature of man, this is termed regeneration. In the material body of the elements, it is called transmutation. As it is in the spiritual and material universes, so it is in the intellectual world. Wisdom cannot be imparted to an idiot, because the seed of wisdom is not within him. But wisdom may be imparted to an ignorant person, however ignorant he may be, because the seed of wisdom exists in him, and can be developed by art and culture. Hence a philosopher is only an ignorant man, within whose nature a projection has taken place. Through art, the process of learning, the whole mass of base metals, the mental body of ignorance, was transmuted into pure gold, wisdom, for it was tinctured with understanding. If then, through faith and proximity to God, the consciousness of man may be transmuted from base animal desires, represented by the masses of the planetary metals, into a pure, golden, and godly consciousness, illumined and redeemed, and the manifesting of God within that one increased from a tiny spark to a great and glorious being. If also the base metals of mental ignorance can, through proper endeavor and training, be transmuted into transcendent genius and wisdom, why is the process in 2 worlds or spheres of application not equally true in the third? If both the spiritual and mental elements of the universe can be multiplied in their expression, then by the law of analogy, the material elements of the universe can also be multiplied, if the necessary process can be ascertained. That which is true in the superior is true in the inferior. If alchemy be a great spiritual fact, then it is also a great material fact. If it can take place in the universe, it can take place in man. If it can take place in man, It can take place in the plants and minerals. If one thing in the universe grows, then everything in the universe grows. If one thing can be multiplied, then all things can be multiplied. For the superior agrees with the inferior, and the inferior agrees with the superior. But as the way for the redemption of the soul is concealed by the mysteries, so the secrets for the redemption of the metals are also concealed, that they may not fall into the hands of the profane and thereby become perverted. If any would grow metals, he must first learn the secrets of the metals. He must realize that all metals, like all stones, plants, animals, and universes, grow from seeds, and that these seeds are already in the body of substance, the womb of the world virgin. For the seed of man is in the universe before he is born or grows, and as the seed of the plant exists for all time through the plant live but a part of that time, so the seeds of spiritual gold and material gold are ever present in all things. The metals grow throughout the ages, because life is imparted to them from the sun. They grow imperceptibly and form like tiny shrubs, for everything grows in some way. Only the methods of growth differ according to kind and magnitude. One of the great axioms is, within everything is the seed of everything, although by the simple processes of nature it may remain latent for many centuries, or its growth may be exceedingly slow. Therefore, every grain of sand contains not only the seed of the precious metals, as well as the seed of the priceless gems, but also the seeds of sun, moon, and stars. As within the nature of man is reflected the entire universe in miniature, so in each grain of sand, each drop of water, each tiny particle of cosmic dust are concealed all the parts and elements of cosmos in the form of tiny seed germs, so minute that even the most powerful microscope cannot detect them, trillions of times smaller than the ion or electron. These seeds, unrecognizable and incomprehensible, await the time assigned them for growth and expression. Consider the monads of Leibniz. There are two methods whereby growth may be accomplished. The first is by nature, for nature is an alchemist forever achieving the apparently impossible. The second is by art, and through art is produced in a comparatively short time that which requires nature almost endless periods to duplicate. The true philosopher, desiring to accomplish the magnum opus, patterns his conduct according to the laws of nature, recognizing that the art of alchemy is merely a method copied from nature, but with the aid of certain secret formula, greatly shortened by being correspondingly intensified. Nature, in order to achieve her miracles, must work through either extensiveness or intensiveness. The extensive processes of nature are such as are used in the transmutation of the pitch of black carbon into diamonds, requiring millions of years of natural hardening. The intensive process is art, which is ever the faithful servant of nature, as Dr. A.D. says, supplementing her every step and cooperating with her in all her ways. So, in this philosophical work, nature and art ought so lovingly to embrace each other, as that art may not require what nature denies, nor nature deny what may be perfected by art. For nature assenting, she demeans herself obediently to every artist, whilst by their industry she is helped, not hindered. Dr. A.D. in his Chemical Collections. By means of this art, the seed which is within the soul of a stone may be made to germinate so intensively that in a few moments a diamond is grown from the seed of itself. If the seed of the diamond were not in the marble, granite, and sand, a diamond could not be grown therefrom. But as the seed is within all these things, a diamond may be grown out of any other substance in the universe. In some substances, however, it is easier to perform this miracle because in them these germs have already been long fertilized and are thus more nearly prepared for the vivifying process of the art. Likewise, To teach some men wisdom is easier than to teach others, for some already have a foundation upon which to work, while in others the thinking faculties are entirely dormant. Alchemy, therefore, should be regarded as the art of increasing and bringing into perfect flower with the greatest possible expedition. Nature may accomplish her desired end, or, because of the destructiveness exercised by one element over another, she may not. But with the aid of the true art, nature always accomplishes her end. For this art is not subject either to the wastings of time or to the vandalism of elemental reactions. In his History of Chemistry, James Campbell Brown, late professor of chemistry in the University of Liverpool, sums up the ends which alchemists sought to achieve in the following paragraphs. This, therefore, was the general aim of the alchemists, to carry out in the laboratory, as far as possible, the processes which nature carried out in the interior of the earth. 7 leading problems occupy their attention. 1. The preparation of a compound named elixir, magisterium medicine, or philosopher's stone, which possessed the property of transmuting the baser metals into gold and silver, and of performing many other marvelous operations. 2. The creation of homunculi, or living beings, of which many wonderful but incredible tales are told. 3. The preparation of the alakast, or universal solvent, which dissolved every substance which was immersed in it. 4. Palingenesis, or the restoration of a plant from its ashes. Had they succeeded in this, they would have hoped to be able to raise the dead. Professor Brown takes a great deal for granted. 5. The preparation of spiritus mundi, a mystic substance possessing many powers, the principle of which was its capacity for dissolving gold. 6. The extraction of the quintessence, or active principle of all substances. 7. The preparation of aurum potable, liquid gold, a sovereign remedy, because gold, being itself perfect, could produce perfection in the human frame. The leaves of Hermes, sacred tree, redrawn from an original manuscript dated 1577. In his Key to Alchemy, Samuel Norton divides into 14 parts the process or states through which the alchemical substances pass from the time they are first placed in the test tube until ready as medicine for plants, minerals, or men. 1. Solution, the act of passing from a gaseous or solid condition into one of liquidity. 2. Filtration, the mechanical separation of a liquid from the undissolved particles suspended in it. 3. Evaporation, the changing or converting from a liquid or solid state into a vaporous state with the aid of heat. 4. Distillation, an operation by which a volatile liquid may be separated from substances which it holds in solution. 5. Separation, the operation of disuniting or decomposing substances. 6. Rectification, the process of refining or purifying any substance by repeated distillation. 7. Calcination, the conversion into a powder or calyx by the action of heat, expulsion of the volatile substance from a matter. 8. Commixtion, the blending of different ingredients into new compounds or mass. 9. Purification, through putrefaction, disintegration by spontaneous decomposition, decay by artificial means. 10. Inhibition, the process of holding back or restraining. 11. Fermentation, the conversion of organic substances into new compounds in the presence of a ferment. 12. Fixation, the act or process of ceasing to be a fluid and becoming firm, state of being fixed. 13. Multiplication, the act or process of multiplying or increasing in number, the state of being multiplied. 14. Projection, the process of turning the base metals into gold. Alchemical symbolism. In alchemy, there are three symbolic substances: mercury, sulfur, and salt. To these was added a fourth mysterious life principle called azoth. Concerning the first three, Herr von Welling has written, "There are three basic chemical substances which are called by the philosophers salt, sulfur, and mercury. Salt, sulfur, and mercury, but which are not to be confounded in any way with the crude salt, sulfur, and mercury taken from the earth or secured from the apothecary. Salt, sulfur, and mercury each has a triune nature, for each of these substances contains, in reality, also the other two substances, according to the secret arcanum of the wise. The body of salt is, therefore, threefold, namely salt, sulfur, and mercury. But in the body of salt, one of the three, salt, predominates. Mercury is likewise composed of salt, sulfur, and mercury, with the latter element predominating. Sulfur, similarly, is actually salt, sulfur, and mercury, with sulfur predominating. These 9 divisions, 3 times 3, plus azoth, the mysterious universal life force, equals 10, the sacred decad of Pythagoras. Concerning the nature of azoth, there is much controversy. Some view it as the invisible, eternal fire, others as electricity, still others as magnetism. Transcendentalism referred to it as the astral light. The universe is surrounded by the sphere of the stars. Beyond that sphere is the sphere of Shamayim, which is the divine fiery water, the first outflow of the Word of God, the flaming river pouring from the presence of the eternal. Shamayim, the fiery androgynous water, divides. The fire becomes the solar fire, and the water becomes the lunar water. Shamayim is the universal mercury, sometimes called azoth, the measureless spirit of life. The spiritual fiery original water, Shamayim, comes through Eden, in Hebrew, vapor, and pours itself into 4 main rivers, the elements. This is the river of living water, azoth, the fiery mercurial essence that flows out from the throne of God and the Lamb. In this Eden, vaporous essence or mist is the spiritual earth, incomprehensible and intangible, or the dust, afar, out of which God formed Adamin Hayadama, the spiritual body of man, which body must sometime become revealed. In another part of his writings, von Welling also says that there was no material universe until Lucifer, attempting to perform the cosmic alchemy, misused the Shamayim, or the divine fire, in order to re-establish the Shamayim, which Lucifer had perverted. This universe was formed as a means of liberating it from the dark cloud within which it was locked by the failure of Lucifer's attempt to control it. These statements clearly emphasize the fact that the early philosophers recognized the Bible, a book of chemical and alchemical formulae. It is essential that this point be kept in mind at all times. Woe to that seeker who accepts as literal the rambling allegories of the alchemists. Such a one can never enter the inner sanctuary of truth. Elias Ashmole, in his Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum, thus describes the methods employed by the alchemists to conceal their true doctrines. Their chiefest study was to wrap up their secrets in fables, and spin out their fancies in veils and shadows, whose radii seems to extend every way, yet so that they meet in a common center and point only at one thing. The fact that the scriptures reveal a hidden knowledge, if considered allegorically, is clearly demonstrated by a parable describing King Solomon, his wives, concubines, and virgins, which parable occurs in Geheime Figuren der Rosenkreuz, published in Altona in 1785. Dr. Hartmann, who translated part of this work into English, declared that the wives of Solomon represented the arts, the concubines the sciences, and the virgins the still unrevealed secrets of nature. By order of the king, the virgins were forced to remove their veils, thus signifying that by means of wisdom, Solomon, the mystic arts were forced to disclose their hidden parts to the philosopher, while to the uninitiated world, only the outside garments were visible. Such is the mystery of the veil of Isis, as the alchemist must do his work in 4 worlds simultaneously, if he would achieve the magnum opus. A table showing the analogies of the 3 principles in the 4 worlds may clarify the relationship which the various parts bear to each other. The early masters of the art of alchemical symbolism did not standardize either their symbols or their terms. Thus it required great familiarity with the subject, combined with considerable intuitive power, to unravel some of their enigmatical statements. The 3rd and 4th divisions of the following table are given alternative renderings, owing to the fact that some authors did not draw a clear line between spirit and soul. According to the scriptures, spirit is indestructible, but soul is destructible. Obviously, then, they are not synonymous. It is clearly stated that the soul that sinneth, it shall die, but the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. The table of analogies, as nearly as they can be established, is as follows. The triune power in 4 worlds. In the world of God, Father is the Father, Son is the Son, Mother is the Holy Ghost. In the world of man, Father is Spirit, the Son is the soul, and the Mother, the body. In the world of the elements, Father is the air, the Son is fire, and the Mother is water. In the world of chemicals, the Father is mercury, the Son is sulfur, and the Mother is salt. The alternative renderings of 3 and 4 are, in the world of elements, the Father is fire, the Son is air, and the Mother is water. In the world of chemicals, the Father is sulfur, the Son is mercury, and the Mother is salt. Paracelsus made a different arrangement, somewhat Aristotelian, in which the 3 phases of the triune God are omitted, combining only the elements of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th worlds. In the world of man, the Father is spirit, the Son is soul, and the Mother is body. In the world of elements, Father is air, Son is water, and Mother is earth. In the world of chemicals, Father is sulfur, Son is mercury, and the Mother is salt. The main point, however, is proved. The alchemical philosophers used the symbols of salt, sulfur, and mercury to represent not only chemicals, but the spiritual and invisible principles of God, man, and the universe. The 3 substances, salt, sulfur, and mercury, existing in 4 worlds, as shown in the table, sum up to the sacred number 12, as these 12 are the foundations of the great work. They are called in Revelation the 12 foundation stones of the sacred city. In line with the same idea, Pythagoras asserted that the dodecahedron, or 12-faced symmetrical geometric solid, was the foundation of the universe. May there not be a relation also between this mysterious 3 times 4 and the 4 parties of 3, which in the legend of the 3rd degree of Freemasonry go forth to the 4 angles of the cherubim, the composite creature of 4 parts. The following table shows the angles to which the parties of 3, salt, sulfur, and mercury, go in search of Hiram, the 4 corners of creation, the fixed signs of the zodiac. Aquarius goes east, Leo goes south, Scorpio goes west, Taurus goes north. The parts of the cherubim: man faces east, lion faces south, eagle faces west, bull faces north. The 4 seasons: spring is in the east, summer is in the south, autumn is in the west, and winter is in the north. The ages of man: childhood begins in the east, youth is in the south, maturity is the west, and age is north. The stages of existence. Birth is in the east, growth is in the south, maturity in the west, and decay in the north. The parts of man's constitution. Spirit is of the east, soul is of the south, mind is of the west, and body is of the north. The four elements. Air is east, fire is south, water is west, earth is north. One more table should prove of interest to Masonic scholars, one showing the relationship existing between the three substances, salt, sulfur, and mercury, and certain symbols with which Masons are familiar. This table also has an alternative rendering based on the interblending of philosophic principles, which are difficult, if not impossible, to separate into chronological order. The three lights: stellar fire, solar fire, lunar fire. The three grand masters: Hiram, Solomon, Hiram of Tyre. The geometric solids: sphere, pyramid, cube. Alchemical substances: mercury, sulfur, salt. There is an alternative rendering of the three grand masters: Solomon, Hiram, and Hiram of Tyre. In alchemy is found again the perpetuation of the universal mystery. For as surely as Jesus died upon the cross, Hiram at the west gate of the temple, Orpheus on the banks of the river Hebron, Krishna on the banks of the Ganges, and Osiris in the coffin prepared by Typhon, so in alchemy, unless the elements first die, the great work cannot be achieved. The stages of the alchemical processes can be traced in the lives and activities of nearly all the world's saviors and teachers, and also among the mythologies of several nations. It is said in the Bible that except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. In alchemy, it is declared that without putrefaction, the great work cannot be accomplished. What is it that dies on the cross, is buried on the tomb of the mysteries, and that dies also in the retort and becomes black with putrefaction? Also, what is it that does the same thing in the nature of man, that he may rise again, phoenix-like, from his own ashes, capit mortuum? The solution in the alchemical retort, if digested a certain length of time, will turn into a red elixir, which is called the universal medicine. It resembles a fiery water and is luminous in the dark. During the process of digestion, it passes through many colors, which has given rise to it being called the peacock because of its iridescence during one of the periods of its digestion. If the augmentations of its power be carried too far, the test tube containing the substance will explode and vanish as dust. This commonly occurs and is the greatest danger involved in the preparation of the medicine for men and metals. If developed too far, it will also seep through the glass, for there is no physical container sufficiently strong to hold it. The reason for this is that it is no longer a substance, but a divine essence, partaking of the interpenetrative power of divinity. When it is properly developed, this universal solvent in liquid form will dissolve into itself all other metals. In this high state, the universal salt is a liquid fire. This salt dissolved with the proper amount of any metal and run through the different stages of digestion and rotations will eventually become a medicine for the transmuting of inferior metals. The True Way of Nature by Hermes Trismegistus, given out by a genuine Freemason, ICH, describes the danger of over-augmenting the universal salt. But this multiplication cannot be carried on ad infinitum, but it attains completeness in the 9th rotation. For when this tincture has been rotated 9 times, it cannot be exalted any further, because it will not permit any further separation. For as soon as it perceives only the smallest degree of material fire, it goes instantly into a flux, and passes through the glass like hot oil through paper. in classifying the processes through which the chemical element must pass before the hermetic medicine is produced. Lack of uniformity in terminology is evidenced, for in the true way of nature, 7 stages are given, while in the Dictionnaire mytho-hermétique, 12 are noted. These 12 are linked with the signs of the zodiac in a manner worthy of consideration. 1. Aries, calcination. 2. Taurus, congelation. 3. Gemini, fixation. 4. Cancer, dissolution. 5. Leo, digestion. 6. Virgo, distillation. 7. Libra, sublimation. 8. Scorpio, separation. 9. Sagittarius, incineration. 10. Capricorn, fermentation. 11. Aquarius, multiplication. 12. Pisces, projection. This arrangement opens an interesting field of speculation, which may be of great service if intelligently carried out. These 12 steps leading up to the accomplishment of the magnum opus are a reminder of the 12 degrees of the ancient Rosicrucian mysteries. To a certain degree, Rosicrucianism was chemistry, theologized, and alchemy philosophized. According to the mysteries, man was redeemed as the result of his passage in rotation through the 12 mansions of the heavens, the 12 processes by means of which the secret essence may be discovered. Remind the student forcibly of the 12 fellow craftsmen who were sent forth in search of the murdered builder of the universe, the universal Mercury. According to Solomon Trismosin, the stages through which matter passes in its journey towards perfection are divided into 22 parts, each of which is represented by an appropriate drawing. There is an important connection between the 22 emblems of Trismosin, the 22 major cards of the tarot, and the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. These mysterious tarot cards are themselves an alchemical formula, if properly interpreted, as if to substantiate the claims of medieval philosophers that King Solomon was a master of alchemy. Dr. Franz Hartmann has noted that the much abused and misunderstood Song of Solomon is in reality an alchemical formula. The student of natural philosophy will immediately recognize the Dark Maid of Jerusalem, not as a person, but as a material sacred to the sages. Dr. Hartmann writes, "The Song of Solomon in the Old Testament is a description of the process of alchemy. In this song, the subjectum is described in Canticles chapter 1, verse 5, the Lilium Artis in Canticles chapter 2, verse 1, the preparation and purification in Canticles chapter 2, verse 4, the fire in Canticles chapter 2, verse 7, and chapter 4, verse 16, the putrefaction in Canticles chapter 3, verse 1, sublimation and distillation in Canticles chapter 3, verse 6, coagulation and change of colors in Canticles verses 9 to 14, fixation in Canticles chapter 2, verse 12, and Canticles chapter 8, verse 4, multiplication in Canticles chapter 6, verse 7, augmentation and projection in Canticles chapter 8, verse 8, etc., etc. A tiny particle of the philosopher's stone, if cast upon the surface of water, will, according to an appendix to the work on the universal salt by Herr von Welling, immediately begin a process of recapitulating in miniature the history of the universe, for instantly the tincture, like the spirits of Elohim, moves upon the face of the waters. A miniature universe is formed, which the philosophers have affirmed actually rises out of the water and floats in the air, where it passes through all the stages of cosmic unfoldment and finally disintegrates into dust again. Not only is it possible to prepare medicine for metals, it is also possible to prepare a tincture for minerals by means of which pieces of granite and marble can be turned into precious stones. Also, stones of inferior quality may be improved. As one of the great alchemists fittingly observed, man's quest for gold is often his undoing, for he mistakes the alchemical processes believing them to be purely material, he does not realize that the philosopher's gold, the philosopher's stone, and the philosopher's medicine exist in each of the four worlds, and that the consummation of the experiment cannot be realized until it is successfully carried on in four worlds simultaneously, according to one formula. Furthermore, one of the constituents of the alchemical formula exists only within the nature of man himself, without which his chemicals will not combine, and though he spend his life and fortune in chemical experimentation, he will not produce the desired end. The paramount reason why the material scientist is incapable of duplicating the achievements of the medieval alchemists, although he follow every step carefully and accurately, is that the subtle element which comes out of the nature of the illuminated and regenerated alchemical philosopher is missing in his experimentation. On this subject, Dr. Franz Hartmann, in a footnote to his translation of extracts from Paracelsus, clearly expresses the conclusions of a modern investigator of alchemical lore. I wish to warn the reader, who might be inclined to try any of the alchemical prescriptions, not to do so unless he is an alchemist, because, although I know from personal experience that these prescriptions are not only allegorically but literally true and will prove successful in the hands of an alchemist, they will only cause a waste of time and money in the hands of one who has not the necessary qualifications. A person who wants to be an alchemist must have in himself the magnesia, which means the magnetic power to attract and coagulate invisible astral elements. In considering the formulae on the following pages, it must be recognized that the experiments cannot be successfully conducted unless the one who performs them be himself a magus. If two persons, one an initiate and the other unilluminated in the supreme art, were to set to work side by side, using the same vessels, the same substances, and exactly the same modus operandi, the initiate would produce his gold, and the uninitiated would not. Unless the greater alchemy is first taken place within the soul of man, he cannot perform the lesser alchemy in the retort. This is an invariable rule, although it is cunningly hidden in the allegories and emblems of Hermetic philosophy. Unless a man be born again, he cannot accomplish the great work, and if the student of alchemical formulae will remember this, it will save him much sorrow and disappointment. To speak of that part of the mystery which is concerned with the secret life principle within the actual nature of man is forbidden, for it is decreed by the masters of the art that each shall discover that for himself, and on this subject it is unlawful to speak at greater length. The Theory and Practice of Alchemy, Part 2. All true philosophers of the natural or Hermetic sciences begin their labors with a prayer to the supreme alchemist of the universe, beseeching his assistance in the consummation of the magnum opus. The prayer that follows, written in a provincial German centuries ago by an adept now unknown, is representative. O holy and hallowed Trinity, thou undivided in triple unity, cause me to sink into the abyss of thy limitless eternal fire, for only in that fire can the mortal nature of man be changed into humble dust, while the new body of the salt union lies in the light. Oh, melt me and transmute me in this thy holy fire, so that on the day, at thy command, the fiery waters of the Holy Spirit draw me out from the dark dust, giving me new birth and making me alive with his breath. May I also be exalted through the humble humility of thy Son, rising through his assistance out of the dust and ashes, and changing into a pure spiritual body of rainbow colors, like unto the transparent, crystal-like, paradisiacal gold, that my own nature may be redeemed, and purified like the elements before me in these glasses and bottles. Diffuse me in the waters of life, as though I were in the wine cellar of the eternal Solomon. Here, the fire of thy love will receive new fuel, and will blaze forth, so that no streams can extinguish it. Through the aid of this divine fire, may I, in the end, be found worthy to be called into the illumination of the righteous. May I then be sealed up with the light of the new world, that I may also attain unto the immortality and glory, where there shall be no more alternation of light and darkness. Amen. The origin of alchemical formulae. Apparently, but few of the medieval alchemists discovered the great arcanum without aid, some authors declaring that none of them attained the desired end without the assistance of a master or teacher. In every instance, the identity of these masters has been carefully concealed, and even during the Middle Ages, speculation ran rife concerning them. It was customary to call such illuminated sages adepts, a title which indicated that they possessed the true secrets of transmutation and multiplication. These adepts were polyonymous individuals who unexpectedly appeared and disappeared again, leaving no trace of their whereabouts. There are indications that a certain degree of organization existed among them. The most powerful of the alchemical organizations were the Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, and certain Arabian and Syrian sects. In the documents which follow, references are made to the Brethren, or brothers. These are to signify that those who had actually accomplished the magnum opus were banded together and known to each other by cipher codes and secret signs or symbols. Apparently, a number of these illuminated adepts dwelt in Arabia, for several of the great European alchemists were initiated in Asia Minor. When a disciple of the alchemical arts had learned the supreme secret, he guarded it jealously, revealing to no man his priceless treasure. He was not permitted to disclose it, even to the members of his immediate family. As the years passed, one who had discovered the secret, or more properly, one to whom it had been revealed, sought for some younger man worthy to be entrusted with the formulae. To this one, and to this one only, as a rule, the philosopher was permitted to disclose the arcanum. The younger man then became the philosophical son of the old sage, and to him the latter bequeathed his secrets. Occasionally, however, an adept, on finding a sincere and earnest seeker, would instruct him in the fundamental principles of the art, and if the disciple persisted, he was quietly initiated into the august fraternity of the Brethren. In such manner, the alchemical processes were preserved, but the number of those who knew them did not increase rapidly. During the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, a considerable number of alchemical adepts made their way from place to place throughout Europe, appearing and disappearing apparently at will. According to popular tradition, these adepts were immortal and kept themselves alive by means of the mysterious medicine that was one of the goals of alchemical aspiration. It is asserted that some lived hundreds of years, taking no food except this elixir, a few drops of which would preserve their youth for a long period of time. That such mysterious men did exist, there can be little doubt, as their presence is attested by scores of reliable witnesses. It is further asserted that they are still to be found by those who have qualified themselves to contact them. The philosophers taught that like attracts like, and that when the disciple has developed a virtue and integrity acceptable to the adepts, they will appear to him and reveal those parts of the secret processes which cannot be discovered without such help. Wisdom is as a flower from which the bee its honey makes, and the spider poison, each according to its own nature, by an unknown adept. The reader must bear in mind at all times that the formulae and emblems of alchemy are to be taken primarily as allegorical symbols, for until their esoteric significance has been comprehended, their literal interpretation is valueless. Nearly every alchemical formula has one element purposely omitted, it being decided by the medieval philosophers that those who could not with their own intelligence discover that missing substance or process were not qualified to be entrusted with secrets which could give them control over great masses of humanity, and likewise subject to their will the elemental forces of nature. The Emerald Table of Hermes. The oldest and most revered of all the alchemical formulae is the sacred Emerald Tablet of Hermes. Authorities do not agree as to the genuineness of this table, some declaring it to be a post-Christian fraud. But there is much evidence that, regardless of its author, the table is of great antiquity. While the symbol of the Emerald Table is of special Masonic import, relating as it does to the personality of Hiram, it is first and fundamentally an alchemical formula, relating both to the alchemy of the base metals and the divine alchemy of human regeneration. In Dr. Sigismund Backstrom's collection of alchemical manuscripts is a section devoted to the translations and interpretations of this remarkable tablet, which was known to the ancients as the Tabula Smaragdina. Dr. Backstrom was initiated into the Brotherhood of the Rose Cross on the island of Mauritius by one of those unknown adepts who at the time called himself Comte de Hazal. Dr. Backstrom's translations and notes on the Emerald Tablet are, in part, as follows, the actual text being reproduced in capital letters. The Emerald Table, the most ancient monument of the Chaldeans concerning the Lapis Philosophorum, the stone of the philosophers. The Emerald Table furnishes the origin of the allegorical history of King Hiram, the Chaldeans, Egyptians, and Hebrews, in what concerns Hiram, have taken their knowledge from one and the same fountain. Homerus, who relates this history in a different manner, followed that original, and Virgil followed Homerus. As Hesiodus took the subject for his theogony likewise from thence, which Ovidius took afterwards for a pattern for his metamorphosis. The knowledge of nature's secret operations constitutes the principal sense of all these ancient writings, but ignorance framed out of it that external or veiled mythology, and the lower class of people turned it into idolatry. The genuine translation from the original, very ancient Chaldee, is as follows. The secret works of Hiram, one in essence, but three in aspect. The two first large words mean the secret work. The second line in large letters reads Hiram Talat Machasot, i.e., Hiram the universal agent, one in essence, but three in aspect. It is true, no lie, certain, and to be depended upon. The superior agrees with the inferior, and the inferior with the superior, to effect that one truly wonderful work, as all things owe their existence to the will of the only one, so all things owe their origin to the one only thing, the most hidden by the arrangement of the only God. The father of that one only thing is the sun. Its mother is the moon. The wind carries it in its belly, but its nurse is a spiritus earth. That one only thing, after God, is the father of all things in the universe. Its power is perfect, after it has been united to a spiritus earth. Process. First distillation. Separate that spiritus earth from the dense or crude by means of a gentle heat, with much attention. Last digestion. In great measure, it ascends from the earth up to heaven, and descends again, newborn, on the earth, and the superior and the inferior are increased in power. The azoth ascends from the earth, from the bottom of the glass, and redescends in veins, and drops into the earth, and by this continual circulation, the azoth is more and more subtilized, volatilizes soul, and carries the volatilized solar atoms along with it, and thereby becomes a solar azoth, i.e., our third and genuine Sophic Mercury. And this circulation of the solar azoth must continue until it ceases of itself, and the earth has sucked it all in, when it must become the black, pitchy matter. The toad, the substances in the alchemical retort, and also the lower elements in the body of man, which denotes complete putrefaction, or death of the compound. By this, thou wilt partake of the honors of the whole world, without doubt, as the black, pitchy matter will, and must of necessity, become white and red, and the red, having been carried to perfection, medicinally, and for metals, is then fully capable to preserve mentum sanum and corpore sano until the natural period of life, and promise us ample means, an infinitum multipliable, to be benevolent and charitable, without any diminution of our inexhaustible resources. Therefore well may it be called the glory, honors, of the whole world, as truly the study and contemplation of the LP, Lapis Philosophorum, harmonizing with divine truths, elevates the mind to God, our Creator and merciful Father, and if He should permit us to possess it practically, must eradicate the very principle of avarice, envy, and evil inclinations, and cause our hearts to melt in gratitude toward Him that has been so kind to us. Therefore the philosophers say with great truth that the LP either finds a good man or makes one, and darkness will fly from thee. By invigorating the organs the soul makes use of for communicating with exterior objects, the soul must acquire great powers not only for conception, but also for retention. And therefore, if we wish to obtain still more knowledge, the organs and secret springs of physical life being wonderfully strengthened and invigorated, the soul must acquire new powers for conceiving and retaining, especially if we pray to God for knowledge and confirm our prayers by faith. All obscurity must vanish, of course. That this has not been the case with all possessors was their own fault, as they contented themselves merely with the transmutation of metals. Use. This is the strength of all powers. This is a very strong figure to indicate the LP positively does possess all the powers concealed in nature, not for destruction, but for exaltation and regeneration of matter in the three departments of nature. This, thou wilt be able to overcome all things and to transmute all what is fine, sun and moon, and what is coarse, woman, man, child. It will conquer every subtle thing, of course, as it refixes the most subtle oxygen into its own fiery nature, and that with more power, penetration, and virtue, in a tenfold ratio, at every multiplication, and each time in a much shorter period, until its power becomes incalculable, which multiplied power also penetrates, overcomes every solid thing, such as unconquerable gold and silver, the otherwise unalterable mercury, crystals, and glass fluxes, to which it is able to give natural hardness and fixity, as Philolitha does attest, and is proved by an artificial diamond. In my father's time, in possession of Prince Liechtenstein in Vienna, valued at 500,000 ducats, fixed by the lapis, philosopher's stone. In this manner, the world was created. The arrangements to follow this road are hidden. For this reason, I am called Hiram Talat Machasat, one in essence, but three in aspect. In this trinity is hidden the wisdom of the whole world, i.e., in Hiram and its use. It is thought that Hermes was Moses or Zoroaster. Otherwise, Hermes signifies a serpent, and the serpent used to be an emblem of knowledge or wisdom. The serpent is met with everywhere amongst the hieroglyphics of the ancient Egyptians. So is the globe with wings, the sun and moon, dragons and griffins, whereby the Egyptians denoted their sublime knowledge of the Lapis Philosophorum. According to Suidas, the hints in the scriptures, and even Denon, where he speaks of the sanctuaries of the ancient Egyptian temples. It is ended now, what I have said concerning the effects of the sun, Finish of the Tabula Smaragdina. What I have said or taught of the solar work is now finished, the perfect seed, fit for multiplication. This I know is acknowledged to be the genuine Tabula Smaragdina Hermitis, a letter from the brothers of R.C., Rose Cross. Although Eugenius Philalethes disclaimed membership in the Rosicrucian fraternity, it is believed that for a number of years he was the head of that order. In a little work called Lumen de Lumine, or A New Magical Light Discovered and Communicated to the World, published in London in 1651, Eugenius Philalethes gives a remarkable letter, presumably from the Rosicrucian order. Accompanying the letter is an emblematic figure, setting forth in symbolic form the processes and formulae of the philosopher's stone. This epistle is an excellent example of the Rosicrucian system of combining abstract theological speculations with concrete chemical formulae. With the aid of the material contained in various parts of this present book, the student would do well to set himself the task of solving the riddle contained in this hieroglyph. A letter from the brothers of R.C. concerning the invisible, magical mountain and the treasure therein contained. Every man naturally desires a superiority, to have treasures of gold and silver, intellect and soul, and to seem great in the eyes of the world. God indeed created all things for the use of man, that he might rule over them, and acknowledge therein the singular goodness and omnipotence of God. Give him thanks for his benefits, honor him, and praise him. But there is no man that looks after these things, otherwise than by spending his days idly. They would enjoy them without any previous labor and danger. Neither do they look them out of that place where God hath treasured them up. Who expects also that man should seek for them there? And to those that seek will he give them. But there is not any that labors for a possession in that place, and therefore these riches are not found. For the way to this place, and the place itself, hath been unknown for a long time, and it is hidden from the greatest part of the world. But notwithstanding it be difficult and laborious to find out this way and place, yet the place should be sought after. But it is not the will of God to conceal anything from those that are his. And therefore, in this last age, before the final judgment comes, all these things shall be manifested to those that are worthy, as he himself, though obscurely, lest it should be manifested to the unworthy, hath spoken in a certain place. There is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hidden that shall not be known. We therefore, being moved by the Spirit of God, do declare the will of God to the world, which we have also already performed and published in several languages. But most men either revile or contemn that, our manifesto, the Fama, and Confessio Fraternitatis, or else waiving the Spirit of God. They expect the proposals thereof from us, supposing we will straightway teach them how to make gold by art, or furnish them with ample treasures, whereby they may live pompously in the face of the world, swagger, and make wars, turn usurers, gluttons and drunkards, live unchastely, and defile their whole life with several other sins, all which things are contrary to the blessed will of God. These men should have learnt from those 10 virgins, whereof 5 that were foolish demanded oil for their lamps, from those 5 that were wise, how that the case is much otherwise. It is expedient every man should labor for this treasure by the assistance of God, and his own particular search and industry. But the perverse intentions of these fellows we understand out of their own writings. By the singular grace and revelation of God, we do stop our ears and wrap ourselves, as it were, in clouds, to avoid the bellowings and howlings of those men, who in vain cry out for gold. And hence indeed it comes to pass, that they brand us with infinite calumnies and slanders, which notwithstanding, we do not resent, but God in his good time will judge them for it. But after that, we had well known, though unknown to you, and perceived also by your writing, how diligently you are to peruse the Holy Scripture, and seek the true knowledge of God. We have also above many thousands thought you worthy of some answer, and we signify this much to you by the will of God, and the admonition of the Holy Ghost. There is a mountain situated in the midst of the earth, or center of the world, which is both small and great. It is soft, also above measure hard and stony. It is far off and near at hand, but by the providence of God, invisible. In it are hidden most ample treasures, which the world is not able to value. This mountain by envy of the devil, who always opposeth the glory of God and the happiness of man, is compassed about with very cruel beasts and other sick, ravenous birds, which make the way thither both difficult and dangerous. And therefore hitherto, because the time is not yet come, the way thither could not be sought after, nor found out. But now at last the way is to be found by those that are worthy, but notwithstanding by every man's self-labor and endeavors. To this mountain you shall go in a certain night, when it comes most long and most dark, and see that you prepare yourselves by prayer. Insist upon the way that leads to the mountain, but ask not of any man where the way lies. Only follow your guide, who will offer himself to you, and will meet you in the way, but you shall not know him. This guide will bring you to the mountain at midnight, when all things are silent and dark. It is necessary that you arm yourselves with a resolute, heroic courage, lest you fear those things that will happen, and so fall back. You need no sword, nor any other bodily weapons. Only call upon God sincerely and heartily. When you have discovered the mountain, the first miracle that will appear is this: a most vehement and very great wind that will shake the mountain and shatter the rocks to pieces. You shall be encountered also by lions and dragons and other terrible beasts. But fear not any of these things. Be resolute and take heed that you return not, for your guide who brought you thither will not suffer any evil to befall you. As for the treasure, it is not yet discovered, but it is very near. After this wind will come an earthquake that will overthrow those things which the wind hath left, and make all flat. But be sure that you fall not off. The earthquake being past, there shall follow a fire that will consume the earthly rubbish and discover the treasure, but as yet you cannot see it. After all these things, and near the daybreak, there shall be a great calm, and you shall see the day star arise, and the dawning will appear, and you shall perceive a great treasure. The chiefest thing in it, and the most perfect, is a certain exalted tincture, with which the world, if it served God and were worthy of such gifts, might be tinged and turned into most pure gold. This tincture being used, as your guide shall reach you, will make you young when you are old, and you shall perceive no disease in any part of your bodies. By means of this tincture also, you shall find pearls of that excellency which cannot be imagined. But do not you arrogate anything to yourselves because of your present power, but be contented with that which your guide shall communicate to you. Praise God perpetually for this, his gift, and have a special care that you use it not for worldly pride, but employ it in such works which are contrary to the world. Use it rightly, and enjoy it so, as if you had it not. Live a temperate life, and beware of all sin. Otherwise your God will forsake you, and you shall be deprived of this happiness. For know this of a truth, whosoever abuseth this tincture, and lives not exemplarily, purely, and devoutly before men, he shall lose this benefit, and scarce any hope there will be left ever to recover it afterwards. If, as transcendentalists believe, The initiations into the fraternity of the Rose Cross were given in the invisible worlds which surround and interpenetrate the visible universe. It is not beyond the range of possibility that this allegory is to be considered in the light of an initiatory ritual, as well as an alchemical formula. As has been noted, it is difficult to secure a complete formula for any of the alchemical operations. The one presented here is the most nearly complete of any available. The collecting of the rays and energies of the celestial bodies, as precipitated in dew, is a process which Paracelsus used with great success. Bear constantly in mind that these processes are only for those who have been properly instructed in the secret art. A true revelation of the manual operation for the universal medicine, commonly called the Philosopher's Stone, by the celebrated philosopher of Leyden, as attested upon his deathbed with his own blood, Anno Domini 1662, to my loving cousin and son, the true Hermetic philosopher. Dear loving cousin and son, although I had resolved never to give in writing to any person the secret of the ancient sages, yet notwithstanding out of peculiar affection and love to you, I have taken it upon me, to which the nearness of our relation obliges me, and especially because this temporal life is short, and art is very dark, and you may therefore not attain the wished-for end. But my son, because so precious a jewel belongs not to swine, and also this so great a gift of God may be treated carefully and Christian-like, in consideration thereof, I do so largely declare myself to thee. I conjure thee with hand and mouth sacredly, first, that most especially thou faithfully keep the same from all wicked, lustful, and criminal persons. Secondly, that thou exalt not thyself in any way. Thirdly, that thou seek to advance the honor of thy Creator of all things, and the good of thy neighbor. Preserve it sacredly, that thy Lord may not have cause to complain of thee at the last day. I have written here in this treatise such a part of the kingdom of heaven, just as I myself have worked this treasure, and finished it with my fingers. Therefore I have subscribed all this work with my blood, lying on my deathbed in Leyden. The process. In the name of God, take of the purest and cleanest salt, sea salt, so as it is made by the sun itself, such as is brought by shipping from Spain. I used salt that came from St. Uber. Let it be dried in a warm stove. Grind it in a stone mortar, as fine as possible to a powder, that it may be so much the easier dissolved, and taken up by our dew water, which is thus to be had in the months of May or June, when the moon is at the full. Observe when the dew falls with an east or southeast wind. Then you must have sticks about 1.5 feet high above the ground when driven in the earth. Upon 2 or 3 such sticks, lay some 4 square plates of glass, and as the dew falls, it easily fastens on the glass like a vapor. Then have glass vessels in readiness. Let the dew drain from the sides of the glass into your vessels. Do this until you have enough. The full of the moon is a good season. Afterwards, it will be hard. The solar rays descending from the sun carry with them solar sulfur, the divine fire. These rays are crystallized by contact with the lunar rays. The solar rays are also met by the emanations pouring upward from the Earth's surface, and are thus still further crystallized into a partly tangible substance, which is soluble in pure water. This substance is the magical mountain of the moon, referred to in the RC letter. The crystallization of the solar and lunar rays in water, dew, produces the virgin earth, a pure, invisible substance, uncontaminated by material matter. When the virgin earth crystals are wet, they appear green. When dry, white. Von Welling makes a suggestion for the extraction of the solar life from stagnant water, but is reticent both as to naming the essence extracted and also as to the various processes through which it must pass to be refined and increased in power. His hint, however, is both valuable and unusual. Take sweet, clean water and seal it in a large bottle, leaving about 1/4 empty. Place the bottle in the sun for some weeks until it rots, showing a precipitation in the bottom. This precipitation, when properly manipulated by distillation, will produce a clear, fiery, burning oil, the constituents and use of which are only known to the wise. The philosopher of Leyden continues, "Now, when you have enough of your dew, close your glasses exactly and keep it till you use it, that none of its spirits may evaporate, which may easily happen. Set it therefore in a cool place, that no warmth may come to it, or else the subtle spirit will rise and be gone, which will not so happen if after you have filled your glasses with dew quite full, you close them very well with wax. Now, in the name of God, take of this dew water as much as thou wilt. Put it in a clean dissolving glass, then cast a little of your forementioned powdered salt into it to be dissolved, and continue to put it in till your dew water will dissolve no more, or till the salt lies in it 4 days without being dissolved. Then it has enough, and unto your dew is given its proper powder. Of this compounded water take as much as thou wilt." I took about 1.5 pounds, and put it into a round vial with a short neck, fill it without water, and lute it with a good lute, a cover and stopple that fits it well, that the subtle and living spirit of the dew may not fume away. For if they should, the soul of the salt will never be stirred up, nor the work ever brought to a right end. Let the lute dry very well of itself, and set it in the furnace of Bm to putrefy. Make a slow fire, and let it digest for 40 days or 50, and that the fume of the water be continually round about it, and you will see your matter grow black, which is a token of its putrefaction. As soon as you have taken it out, have your dry furnace ready. Set your glass with the matter into an inner globe to coagulate. Give it a slow degree of fire. Continue it equally for 12 or 15 days, and your matter will begin to coagulate and to fasten round about your glass, like a gray salt, which as soon as you see, and before it be 2 days, slacken the fire that it may cool leisurely. Then have in readiness your putrefying furnace as before. Set your glass therein, and give the same degree of fire as before. Let it stand 12 days, and again you will see the matter resolve and open as before, and open itself, but you must every time see that the lute and your glass is not hurt. When you set your glass in the putrefying furnace, take care that the neck of your glass is covered with a wooden or glass stopper that fits it exactly, that the moisture of the water may not come at it. When you see it black, set your glass as before to coagulate, and when it begins to be of a grayish color and whitish, set it in a 3rd time to putrefy, and coagulate to the 5th time, until you see that your water in its dissolution is clean, pellucid, and clear, and that it appears in its calcination of a fine white, like snow. Then it is prepared, and becomes a salt, fixed, which will melt on hot silver plate like wax. But before you set this your salt out, set it again in the furnace of putrefaction, that it may dissolve of itself. Then let it cool, open your glass, and you will find your matter lessened a 3rd part. But instead of your former salt water, you will have a fine, sweet, and very penetrating water, which the philosophers have hid under very wonderful names. It is the mercury of all true philosophers, the water out of which comes gold and silver, for they say its father is gold, and its mother is silver. Thus hast thou the strength of both these luminaries conjoined in this water, most true in its right pondus. Prescription: 5 drops of this water taken inwardly strengthens the understanding and memory, and opens to us most wonderful and sweet things, of which no man hath heard, and of which I dare not further write, because of the oath I made God to the contrary. Time and the holy use of this blessed water will teach us, as soon as you have taken it inwardly. Such influence will happen to thee, as if the whole heavens and all the stars with their powers are working in thee. All knowledge and secret arts will be open to thee as in a dream. But the most excellent of all is, you will perfectly learn rightly to know all creatures in their nature, and by means thereof, the true understanding of God, the Creator of us, heaven and earth, like David and Moses, and all the saints of God, for the wisdom of our fountain of living water will instruct thee, as it did Solomon, and the brethren of our fraternity. In his rare treatise on salt, sulfur, and mercury, von Welling discloses a secret, not generally revealed in alchemical writings, namely, that the alchemists were concerned not only with the transmutation of metals, but had a complete cosmological and philosophical system based upon the Qabbalah. According to von Welling, the universal salt in watery form is a positive cure for all the physical ailments of mankind. It is in every living thing, but from some things it is more easily secured than from others. Especially is this true of virgin earth. It is the universal solvent, the alkahest. The same writer also states that in the first stages of its preparation, this salt will cure any and all diseases of the heart. The anonymous philosopher of Leyden continues, would you now proceed further with our blessed water, to the forementioned intention of preparing a tincture for metals? Hearken, my son, take in the name of the Lord, of thy paradisiacal water, of heavenly water of mercury, as much as thou wilt, put it into a glass to dissolve, and set it in a slow heat of ashes, that it may just feel the warmth. Then have ready well purified gold for the red, or silver for the white elixir, for in both the processes are the same. Let your gold or silver be beaten as thin as leaf gold. Cast it by degrees into your dissolving glass that contains your blessed water, as you did in the beginning with your salt, and it will melt like ice in warm water, and continue so to do till your gold or silver lie therein 4 days without dissolving. Then it has received its due pondus. Then put this dissolution, as before, into a round glass. Fill it 2/3 parts full. Seal it hermetically as before. Let your sigillum be well dried. Set it in the furnace of balneum vapori. Make a fire, and let it remain 40 days, as before. Then will the gold or silver be dissolved radically, and will turn of the deepest black in the world, which, as soon as you see, have your other drying furnace in readiness. Continuing, philosophers say there is no true solution of the body without a preceding coagulation of the spirit, for they are interchangeably mixed in a due proportion, whereby the bodily essence becomes of a spiritual penetrating nature. On the other hand, the incomprehensible spiritual essential virtue is also made corporeal by the fire, because there is made between them so near a relation or friendship, like as the heavens operate to the very depth of earth, and producing from thence all the treasures and riches of the whole world. Admirandum naturae operationem in archidoxis cognitum. With this powder, you may as follows project on metals. Take 5 parts of fine gold or silver according as you work, and melt it in a crucible. Wrap up your medicine in wax. Cast it therein. Give a strong fire for an hour. Then take the crucible out, as it were, calcined. Then cast 1 part on 10 parts of imperfect metals. Be it what it will, and the same will be immediately changed into purer metal than what is brought out of the mines and produced by melting. And when you augment it in strength and virtue by resolving and coagulating, the 5th time it will resolve in 3 days and be coagulated in 24 hours' time to an incredible and most highly pellucid stone, or red shining burning coal. For the white work, it will become like a white stream of lightning. It will become like a white stream of lightning. Of this last coagulation take 1 part, cast it upon 5,000 of melted gold or silver as before. It changes the same into perfect medicine, 1 part whereof will tinge 100,000 parts of melted and perfect metals into the very finest gold or silver. So far I have brought, and further I would not come, for as I would set in the matter, to distill 6 times in 12 hours, it subtilized so highly that the most part, like somewhat most wonderful to behold, passed through the glass, causing an inexpressible odoriferous smell. Take heed that it happens not to you. Many more wonders of this holy art might be added, namely, how to prepare therewith all sorts of precious stones, and other most admirable things, but it would require too great a book to express the whole as it ought to be, especially as the art is endless, and not to be apprehended with one view. And my purpose has been, loving cousin and son, devoutly to lead thee into the mysteries of nature and this holy science, and I have faithfully performed it. In conclusion, the letter states, Go thou to work as I have done before thee. Fear God. Love thy neighbor from the bottom of thy soul sincerely. So will in the manual operation everything to thee, and when thou art at work therein, many of our brethren will reveal themselves to thee, of our holy order, privately, for I have on my part, by the eternal God, wrote the truth which I found out by prayer, and searching into nature, which work I have seen with my eyes, and with my hands extracted. Therefore also I have subscribed to this testament with my own blood, the last day of my life, on my deathbed. Actum Laden, 27th of March, 1662. The hermetic and alchemical figures of Claudius de Domenico Celentano Vallis Novi, from a manuscript written and illuminated at Naples, A.D. 1606. No better way can be found of introducing to the royal art a seeker after the mysteries of symbolical philosophy than to place at his disposal an actual example of alchemical writing. The text of this manuscript is as enigmatic as are its diagrams, but to him who will meditate upon the profound significance of both, the deeper issues of mysticism in due time will be made clear. An unknown person, through whose hands this manuscript passed, wrote thus of it. Because of its drawings and illustrated expositions, the manuscript is of preeminent importance to the Rosicrucians and the contemporary order of Freemasons. The first and larger part of the illustrations deals with the Hermetic philosophy, explaining its teachings and doctrines. Interspersed among these are portraits of great teachers and satirical representations of bunglers and their mistaken views. The systematically arranged part shows with wonderful clearness the color development of the alchemical processes, from blue gold over black to white and rose. Throughout it treats of the change in human beings, and not of the making of gold. Ever upon the grade of black, the return into chaos from which new creations are possible, follows the grade of the neophytes, the new birth, which is often repeated with impressive lucidity. The black stage occurs as usual through fire. This unopened and unpublished manuscript belongs to the order of the most important precepts and documents of the Rosicrucians and Freemasons. A search through the museums and library collections of Germany has failed to reveal any item of even a similar character. In addition to the 26 leaves here reproduced, there are 10 bottles or retorts, each half filled with varicolored substances. These bottles can be so easily described that it is unnecessary to reproduce them. The first bottle, from the mouth of which issues a golden shrub with 3 blossoms, contains a bluish-gray liquid, the entire figure being called R. Quicksilver. Under the vessel is a verse containing the significant words, "He will have white garments for black, and then red. The second bottle, from the neck of which rise 4 golden flowers, also contains the bluish-gray substance termed quicksilver. Below the bottle is the admonition to make spirit of the body and grace of the gross, that the corporeal may become incorporeal. The third bottle is entirely black, save for a golden tree trunk, having 6 lopped-off branches, and terminating in 5 branches which end in knobs and protrude from the neck of the bottle. The state of the substance is termed blackness showing through the head of the raven. Under the bottle occurs the statement that the tincture of the philosophers is hidden in the air, like the soul in the human body. The fourth bottle is of the deepest blackness and is called the head of the raven. Nothing rises from the neck of the vessel. For the earth, its contents is described as submerged in chaos. The bottom of the fifth bottle contains a bluish-gray, spotted liquid, the upper part being filled with a brick-colored substance. Above are the words, 6 ravens' head. Below is added, at the bottom of the vessel, worms are born. The lower half of the sixth bottle is of a bluish-gray, the upper half black, the entire figure being termed 7th raven's head. A child is seated beside the bottle, concerning whom it is written, this newly born, black son is called elixir, and will be made perfectly white. The 7th bottle is black below, and black spotted with red above. The process is thus described, black, blacker than black, for many diverse colors will appear. Those black clouds will descend to the body whence they came, and the junction of body, soul, and spirit has been completed and turned to ashes. The 8th bottle is divided horizontally by a golden band, from which rises a golden stem, ending in 5 leaves protruding from the neck of the bottle. The contents of the vessel are transparent, and it is written that the black clouds are past, and the great whiteness has been completed. The 9th bottle, from the neck of which rises a golden white rose, is also partly filled with a transparent liquid. The rose is made to say, he who blanches me makes me red. The 10th and last bottle represents the consummation of the great work. The lower half of the vessel is filled with the blood-red elixir, and from the neck rises a red rose with many petals, and of extreme beauty. After declaring all the planets to have been present at the consummation of the great work, the author of the document concludes, I gave to the master, spirit, so much silver and gold that he can never be poor. In his dedication, the author and illustrator of the manuscript declares that he has set forth all the operations of the great work. He prays to the Holy Spirit that he may be included in the number of those who have pursued this most noble of the sciences, and that he may be set always in the path of righteousness. Exclusive of his own researches, the main sources of his information are said to be the writings of St. Thomas Aquinas, Raymond Lully, and Arnold of Villanova. To protect themselves from the persecution of despotic theology, the medieval alchemists couched their philosophy in Christian terminology. Although the great secrets of the arts were derived largely from Egyptian or Arabian adepts, the Mohammedans were masters of the Hermetic secrets, and even the great Paracelsus secured from them the major part of his knowledge. In their manifestos, the Rosicrucians also disclosed the Arabian source of their secret doctrine. Hence, it should be borne in mind that the relating of the alchemical teachings to biblical symbolism was a gesture of expediency. In their search of the scriptures for the arcana of Israel, the Kabbalists substantiated in great measure the alchemical interpretations of the Bible, for the soul of alchemy is one with that of Kabbalism. Both schools have a common end, being who was concerned with the mystery of human regeneration, despite apparent discrepancies in their symbolism. The publication of this manuscript places at the student's disposal the most profound secrets of the Hermetic art. At first, the task of decipherment may seem hopeless, and the superficially minded will be tempted to scoff at the possibility of real knowledge being perpetuated in such unconventional fashion. The scoffer will not realize that one of the purposes of the document is to awaken ridicule and thus preserve more effectually its arcana from the profane. A few sheets, such as those here reproduced, represent the life work of one who has consecrated himself to the task of tearing aside the veil of the world virgin. Years of research and experimentation, days of incessant labor, nights of prayer and meditation, and at last comes the realization of accomplishment. This is the real story told by the grotesque figures drawn so painstakingly upon the faded, worm-eaten pages. Those who have glimpsed the greater realities of being realize that the fundamental verities of life find at best only imperfect expression through physical symbols. Only those who have passed through the travail of spiritual birth can adequately comprehend and properly reverence the pathetic efforts to portray for others that knowledge necessarily locked within the heart of the one who knows. Leaf 1. The top line reads, "Our earliest medicine was made of natural objects." About the king and queen appears the statement that to them a son shall be born, in 2 trees of the vine, resembling his father and without equal in all the world. About the vase is written, "Green and white, the vase flame color, the flowers green, our water, our silver." The lines below read, "The material of the philosopher's stone is that thick, viscous water, which either heat or cold congeals. It is mercury boiled down and thickened, cooked in neutral earth with sulfurous heat, and is called the prime material of the metals. In caverns yet dark and forbidding mountains, if a stone be found which 1,000 years ago nature made out of her fruits, it will bring him that has it out of trouble. Listen carefully to all my verses. I speak them without veil and without deception." Leaf 2. At the top is a quotation from St. Thomas Aquinas concerning the composition of the philosopher's stone, which is described as of the purest transparency. In it all the forms of the elements and their contrarieties were visible. Beneath the figure of St. Thomas Aquinas is a short paragraph praising the excellence of the philosophic stone, declaring that from the one substance can be derived 3, and from the 3, 2. To the right of St. Thomas Aquinas is a likeness of Raymond Lully, seated in the door of his hermitage. Under his feet appears a quotation from the celebrated alchemist, beginning with the question, "What is the philosopher's stone?" After declaring it to be a reddish, fixed mercury, Lully swears to the Almighty that he has told the truth, and that it is not permissible to say more. The original manuscript is mutilated at this point. Leaf 3. The writing at the top of the page reads, "Death of Saturn, life of Mercury." After describing the use of the Saturnine substances, the key to the process is declared to be depicted below. The verse reads, "This, the stone, is made of 4 elements. This is the truth in all nature. Take it in hand, bright and shining, with all diligence and great care, and then try to bind all securely together side by side, so the fire may cause alarm." Above the human figure is written, "Saturn is almost dead." To the right, "If the devouring serpent," is a statement of Albertus Magnus, that Saturn and Mercury are the first principles of the stone. It also declares that nature wisely provided a mixture of elements, so that earth can communicate its dryness to fire, fire its heat to air, air its moisture to water, and water its coldness to earth. Text about the vase is illegible in the original. Leaf 4. At the top, "Let them believe that everything is possible. The art is fleeting, bright and rare, and not believed by the foolish." The words between the sun and crescent read, "It is hidden," and on the panel across the body, the book of life and true treasury of the world. The panel to the left of the figure says, moving almost all, and the soul of its body returns to the place from which it had fled, and ripens 7 months or 9, and the king crowned with his diadem appears. The right panel states, there are 3 Mercuries, animal, vegetable, and mineral. The text below is of such a cryptic nature that to translate it is well nigh impossible. It declares that by putting fire beneath the feet of the symbolic figure, it is possible to extract therefrom the sun and the moon, which the human body is shown elevating to a position of dignity above its head. Leaf 5. In the upper panel, it is declared that the sunbird battles with the earth serpent, who, tearing out his own entrails, gives them to the bird. The spirit is vivified, and Lazarus with joy is raised from the dead. Above the bird is written, this is the sun in the form of a bird, and above the dragon, this is the dragon devouring the bird. The first operation. The panel of text at the lower left reads in substance, when our sperm, quicksilver, is mixed with the mother of elements, earth. The action is called coitus. The definition by the earth of a bit of quicksilver is called conception. The earth grows and multiplies, and the operation is called impregnation. When earth is whitened with water and made of uniform color and appearance, it is called birth, and the king is born out of fire. The text at lower right was deliberately mutilated to conceal a too evident secret. Leaf 6. This plate shows all the secrets of the great stone. In the center stands the Paschal Virgin. In her hair the prime virtue which is described as an herb flourishing in wells. The hands hold the symbols of the spiritual and material elements. The statement at the upper left is to the effect that there are 4 spirits with 2 faces, which are called the elements. At the upper right, it is written that fire lives on air, air on water, water on earth, and thus the stone lives peacefully on all the pure elements. Under the sun appears the word summer, under the moon, autumn. About the tree on the left with its attendant eyes are the words, turn away your eyes to, from, the fire. There is space. About the tree to the right, open your eyes to the fire. There is time. The lower panel opens with this sentence, I am exalted above the circles of world. Leaf 7. The verse at the top reads, this stone is so noble and worthy that nature has hidden it in her recesses. Its soul is all fair and pure, for it is the true sun. I inform you of this. Keep it removed, apart and separated. Whatever boon you crave, it will come to you bounteously without sin, with pleasure and delight. The seated figure on the left, holding aloft the hammer, is described as breaking hard stone, while the words beside the man with the retort read, breaking of stone are replenishment. Between the standing figures below is the exclamation, O sages, seek and ye shall find my stone. Under the outstretched hand of the man with a basket appear the words, draw out sorarum in the bottom. Below the pool which the man on the left is stirring appears the simple statement, our healing water. The faces of the 4 men are extremely well drawn. Leaf 8. Under the sun, moon, and Mercury are the words 3 and 1, an inference that the 3 are 1. The words under the flower stems read, whiteness 40 days after ashes. Under the blossoms is written, left, minor time of the stone, right, the selected red. Between the arms of the central figure appears, let 1 pound of mercury be placed. To the left is written, if you who read shall have known this figure, you will possess the whole science of the stone. To the right, and if you do not acknowledge it, you will be stiff-necked and dull. Above the sun is the word Father, above the Seder, ferment of the work. Beside the child is the sentence, the son of the moon would throw the stone into the fire, his mother. Above the flaming basket is written, I am the true stone. Under the central figure are the words, a moderate fire is the master of the work. Leaf 9. In the upper left it is written, without the light of the moon, the sun does not heat the earth. In the upper left it is written that without the light of the moon, the sun does not heat the earth, and that into the moon the sun emits its fruits. In the upper right, the true herb of the philosophers is described, and it is declared that whoever believes in it shall be spiritually rich. The panel concludes thus, understand thoroughly what it is that the man has in either hand if you wish to be enlightened. The text to the left above the sun reads, entirely without the sun and moon, make die, dissolve, congeal, and like produces for itself like. The words to the right of the man, holding the philosopher's herb, declare sublimation to be the beginning, the middle and the end of the great work. The last sentence reads, out of the sun and moon make a thing of equal parts, and by their union, God willing, let the philosopher's stone be made. Leaf 10. The two short lines of text at upper left read, some take a recent stone. The lines to the right of the symbol of Mars, iron, admonish the student to control his appetites and apply his mind to the accumulation of knowledge. No satisfactory translation can be found for the words under the outstretched arm of the man holding the upper part of the tree. The lower panel reads thus, after the stone has been well refined, it will appear to penetrate thoroughly. It should be put into its vessel with its water. Close it well with a little fire, and await the wonders of nature. The large red oval filling the lower half of the leaf is evidently the egg or vessel of the sages. The tree is a symbol of the growth of the sacred metals, for the alchemists affirmed that the metals are like plants and grow in the rocks, spreading their branches, veins, through the interstices. Leaf 11. The fount is described as that from which the two mercuries of the philosophers are extracted. At the upper left is described the white mercury, and at the right, the red mercury. The text about the fountain declares that Saturn collects the white mercury, which is called the water of earth, and the earth collects the red mercury, which is called the water of heaven. The text to the left of the frog reads, through him who created the heavens and the earth, I am the philosopher's stone, and in my body I carry something the wise seek. If such a charm be extracted from me, it will be a sweet refreshment for you. I am an animal having father and mother, and father and mother were created, and in my body are contained the four elements, and I am before father and mother, and I am a poisonous animal. The lines at the right describe distilling and calcining processes. Leaf 12. The three words at the top read, this is nature. The lines above the donkey read, this is the philosopher's donkey, who wished to rise to the practice of the philosopher's stone. The three lines below the animal are translated, frogs gather in multitudes, but science consists of clear water made from the sun and moon. The text under the symbolic bird is as follows, this is fortune with two wings. Whosoever has it knows that fruit will in such a way be produced. A great philosopher has shown that the stone is a certain white sun, to see which needs a telescope. To dissolve it in water requires the sun and moon, and here one must open 200 telescopes, putting body and soul in one mass. And here is the lost mass. Other sages cook the frog and add nothing, if the juice of the wise you wish to enjoy. To the Greeks, the frog symbolized both metempsychosis and earthly humidity. Leaf 13. This page contains but two figures. At the left stands Morianus, the philosopher, pointing towards the salamander who lives and grows in fire. Morianus, who was born in the 12th century, became the disciple of the great Arabian alchemist Adfar, from whom he learned the hermetic arts. Morianus prepared the philosophical elixir for the Sultan of Egypt, inscribing upon the vase in which he placed the precious substance the words, "He who possesses all has no need of others." He spent many years as a hermit near Jerusalem. The lines below the salamander are, "Let the fire be of a perfect red color, the earth white, the water clear. Then compound them by philosophical means, and calcine them as many times with the water which the body had, as to turn it white by its kindness. Having done this, you will have the greatest treasure in the world." Leaf 14. The 3 words at the top of the left page are translated, "the man that digs." Above the birds, it is declared that none but the cocks of Hermes, the 2 Mercuries, shall put hand to the plow, and only after irrigation will the earth bring forth her fruits. The seated man is Count Bernard of Treviso, who says, "Work the earth with Mercury." See Alchemy and its exponents. The 3 sentences to the Count's left read, "Go to the fire, and with Mercury, thy brother, await me for a month. Crumble the stone I gave thee, and I shall go to the fire. Thy death, my life, I shall not die, but, living, tell of the works of this, my master." Bernard of Treviso, in his alchemical speculation, emphasized the necessity of meditation upon the philosophical writings of the great adepts, rather than chemical experimentation. He ultimately discovered the stone. Leaf 15. The first sentence reads, "The fruit of plants by virtue of the sun are stone." The boy holding the dish is made to say, "Drink here, all ye that are athirst. Come unto me, run to the waters. Here drink, without price, and drink your fill. Open your eyes and see the wonders of the earth. They learn, my thirsty 20 and 4. Beneath the boy are the words, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and divided the waters from the waters. Bless the waters which are above the heavens." The circle contains the statement, "The earth without form and void, out of the stars come the rains." The lower left panel continues the alchemical process, ending with admonition to renounce the misery of worldly existence. Above is a prayer to the Virgin Mary, which opens thus, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord be with thee, blessed thou among women." Leaf 16. The first sentence reads, "The dead bodies remain. The spirits are freed by the death in the bodies. You will ride with that death with a scythe, and the light of the sun, the moon, and the fixed stars." Over the scythe is written, "Subject to the sun, the moon, and Azoth. Complete the work." The 4 words in the curve of the scythe blade say, "Man's head, head of raven." The 3 lines to the right are interpreted thus. This figure is called Leighton, for it looks black in a vessel, and is the beginning of corruption. The text below the latter states, "This is the ladder of primitive matter, which then placed in a vessel turns black. It gradually changes to white by the scale, ladder of digestion, according to the degree of heat." Here, a ladder is used to signify the natural steps up which matter must ascend before it can attain to a truly spiritual state. Leaf 17. The verse at the top of the page reads, "Not only must this material be fixed, but it must be allowed to enter into everything so that this material may be well completed and have infinite virtue. Then, by making it thick, it becomes at once all white. Sublimation from white, it becomes shining. Above the sun are the words, God and nature do nothing in vain." The man on the left is a medieval conception of Hermes, the great Egyptian philosopher. The one on the right is Christopher, the philosopher of Paris. Above the latter is written, "If the stone is black, it is not useless." The words over the retort are, There is air, fire, water, and earth. Below is added, a dissolution of the body is the first step. The curious chemical apparatus must be considered purely symbolic in this work and, as its author himself says, is intended to give only a hint of the art. Leaf 18. At the left holding a book stands Aristotle, who is described as the most learned of all the Greeks. The tree surmounted by the sun and moon is accompanied by the words, "When the stone is dead, that is changed to water. In this it will produce flowers." Beneath Aristotle and the prostrate human figure from which rises the flowering tree are these statements: "He who makes everything descend from heaven to earth, and then ascend from earth to heaven, has information about the stone. For in Mercury there is something the wise seek, not invoked except by white or red ferment." The first part of this quotation is based upon the emerald tablet of Hermes, which see, in ordinary man, the spirit is figuratively absorbed by the body, but in the true philosopher, the spirit is so greatly increased in power that it absorbs into itself and is nourished by man's corporeal body. Leaf 19. At the top it reads, "He that comes to know this figure will have knowledge of the stone." The seated man probably represents Paracelsus. To his right are the words, "I am neither tree nor animal, nor stone nor vegetable, but the philosopher's stone, trampled on by men, cast into the fire by my Father, and in fire I rejoice." The four words to the left say, "In dryness is the stone." Below the man in the philosophic egg containing the words, "It is the end in which the beginning rests." The capital T stands for tincture. The text to the right states, "In stone it is formed." As Gerber writes in his book very learnedly, and possessing so much of its nature that it changes into clear, living water, and it has the power to make folks rich, satisfied, and free from all cares, so they will be always happy if they attain by their wit to the secret. Leaf 20. At the top is written, "Rains are made by 6 stars." Under the inverted man it reads, "Receive new spirit. Arise, for you are asleep." The 2 sentences about the large figure read, "Remember Mercury, for ashes thou art, and unto ashes thou shalt return. I thirst and am dead." Above the 7 globes at the left is the admonition, "If he thirst, give him a drink, and he shall live." Over the small man is written, "Hermes, the father of philosophers." The curved line of writing to which Hermes points says, "The measure of the drink." Under the central pedestal appears, "The light of my eyes is a lantern to my feet." Below is added, "If the beginning is unknown, the rest is unknown." Above the figure rising from the flames on the right is the statement, "He was resurrected after new moon." And under the eagle, "Thou shalt not fly further with me." Leaf 21. The upper line reads, "Two things in double, but finally one is dissolved into the first, and they make sperm." The 4 capitals, I, A, T, are the initial letters of the names of the elements, ignis, air, aqua, and terra. The writing under them reads, "Our fire is water. If you can give fire to fire, fire and mercury will suffice." Along the arm appear the words, "The art of the stone is," and on the ribbon, "Swift, brief, bright, and rare." The 2 lines under the ribbon read, "Every hand is a key, because it was called the herb celandine." Under the sun, "I am the gift of God." The verse reads, "So that you remain contented in all matters. I must listen attentively. My body is naked, clean, and shining, and I run like oil ready to drop, resplendent like bright gold, and then succumb to the plague in its bright and cheerful little chamber." Retort. Leaf 22. The verse in the upper left is as follows. "This group is composed of 3 stones, lunar, solar, and mercurial. In the lunar is white sulfur. In the solar, red sulfur. In the mercurial, both, i.e., white and red. And this is the strength of all instruction. In the bottle at the left are the words, dissolving, calcination, sublimation, complete the instruction, and at the base, wash, congeal, and coagulate. Under the central tower is written, metallic salts, however, are hidden by one letter. Around the bottom of the red circle, dryness, coldness, humidity, heat, and dryness. On the points below are the names of the four elements. The initial I-A-A-T appear 4 times with the same meaning as that already given. The 3 powers of the Philosopher's Stone are symbolized by the heads of the cherubs in the circle in the upper left corner. Leaf 23. The writing at the upper left is, in substance, the Lord's Prayer, with the addition of the words Jesus and Mary at the end. The inverted words in the banner read, Ye can do nothing without me, for God has so promised, saying, So be it. The text under the angel reads, By this plague he will be damned who knows he is dead, all cold in a black body, and let this be thy first comfort. Then he will burn unto calcination. When I have reduced him within this door, know for certain that I shall be blessed if I shall know how to cultivate the garden. The main part of the leaf is devoted to an elaborate symbolic drawing of alchemical equipment, under which are the words, the furnace of distillation, congealing, rectification, perfection, fixation, quintessence of the philosophers. By quintessence or quintessence should be understood the 5th essence of the most wise. Leaf 24. The words at the top read, I, the bird, the adept, speak into thine ears from the sun, moon, and Azoth. The work is perfected with little labor. The panel to the left describes the nature of primordial matter and the drink of the philosophers. The text to the right reads, This is my beloved Son, whom I saw and loved. If he be resurrected, he will remain at home, and in that house the spirit will be the soul and the body. For Mercury may be called the son of the sun and the moon. Under the child's figure is added, If he were not dead, I should not have been his mother. I bore him after death, before he was born in the world. Under my feet, I have what was his, and out of me and my son, and the foundation of my feet, the Philosopher's Stone is made. At the lower left, the 3 constituents of the stone are shown elevated upon a pedestal to signify their dignity. Leaf 25. Above the figure of the queen are 3 lines stating, in substance, that in the beginning of the book it was written of her that from her maternal breasts she nourished the sun, and that he who was capable of converting her into primal matter possessed rare skill. Opposite the queen's head are the words, In the highest mountains this water, and I am the light of the philosophers. To the left of the queen is an admonition to strike the sons whom she bears. She calls herself the mother of the sun, the sister of the moon, and the servant and spouse of Mercury. On the right, she is made to exclaim, I cannot be crowned unless these sons of mine become ashes. The suns are shown directly below. The verse under the queen continues the alchemical processes, describing the method in which the exudations from the substance should be preserved. Leaf 26. This page, which concludes that part of the Hermetic manuscript bearing the symbols of the secret work, contains a number of emblems not directly correlated. At the top is the head of the king, the most common of alchemical figures. To the right of the king is an alchemical vessel designated the Hermetic seal. Below is the head of a ferocious bird, here designated a griffin. To the left of the king is a headless figure elevating a sun, or spiritual face. This figure is the world, which must be headless, since its spiritual and rational part is not material and consequently is invisible. Below is a circle unaccompanied by descriptive matter. Directly under the king's head is a vase of flowers, in which rises the golden plant of the philosophers. At the bottom of the page is additional alchemical equipment, this also being termed a hermetic seal.